Okay, today we're going to talk about classes, and we've already talked about methods, which are a structure, a programming structure. We've talked about loops, which are a programming structure. Now we're going to talk about a completely different structure, which is a class, and a class allows us to make objects. And the reason why we'd want to create classes or have classes is that we can really reuse our code. I can create a class for one program, and I can actually import it into another program. I could post a class up online, other people could download it and use it in their programs, or I could go to the internet and download other people's classes and use them in my program. So it's pretty cool, and it's one of the things that makes object-oriented programming worthwhile because we can reuse and share code. So to create a class, I'm going to hit New Class here in BlueJ. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dice. I'm going to call it die, singular, but it's basically if I want to roll a number between 1 and 20 or 1 and 6, I would create one of these dice objects and then I would roll it. And so it's kind of like the random object in a way. So here I have, it's called die. I'm going to go ahead and, here's a template. This is very useful, but I'm not going to use it right now. I'm going to just get rid of it. One of the things that's different about this class is that it has no main method. So whenever you're dealing with classes that have no main method, it's a true class. It's really a class, and but we have to have a class declaration, just like we do in a class that has a main method. So I'm going to have class die. Notice that I've capitalized it, and then I've got opening and closing curly brackets. Put a little note, end of class. And so that's my dice class. Everything's got to go in between these curly brackets. And the things that I want to put in here are fields, constructors, and I want to put methods. So this is the skeleton of our dice class. So as far as the fields go, well, the fields are the variables. And these variables are going to be available throughout the class, no matter what method we're in. And we just are going to declare the fields here. So I'm going to create a variable called sides, which is how many sides the dice has. I'm also going to declare a variable called side up. So that's which of the sides is up, is facing the person. So when you roll it, you'll look at which side is up. With the constructors, what we're trying to do is we're trying to initialize the fields that we have. So the constructor's job is to give these fields an initial value. When we create the constructor, we give it an access type of public. It's always public. And then we say the name of the class. And notice that the class, the constructor, is always the same name as the class. And then we add some parentheses and some curly brackets. So that is our constructor, public die. So like I said, I've got to initialize my fields. So I'm going to say sides equals 6, and I'm going to say that side up equals 1. So what I'm saying here is that whenever I create a dice, it's always going to be 6-sided, and the side up is always going to be 1. Now we're going to change that later, but this die isn't very creative. I probably should accept some parameters and allow the user to specify how many sides the dice is. But we can do that later. Let's take a look at methods. Now with this dice, it's only going to be able to do one thing, and that's to be rolled. So I'm going to create a method called roll. And when we create a method, we've got to have an access type, a return type, which in this case is going to be void, and we have to have the name of it, or the identifier. So I'm going to call this roll. Then we have to have some parentheses to show that it's a method, and we have the opening and closing curly brackets, which are going to hold all of the code that's part of the method. Here I put a note to myself, end roll. Okay, so now I'm going to roll a random number, and what I did is I went on the internet and Googled, hey, how do you roll a random number between something and another something? And I came up with this formula. And basically what this says is that we have a minimum number and we have a maximum number, and then we use Java's math class, which is a static class that's always available. We don't have to import it. And we call the math.random. That's going to create a double number. We want to multiply that times the max number minus the minimum number plus 1. And then we want to change it into an integer. And the way that we change a double into an integer is by putting the word int within parentheses right in front of it. Okay, so I'm going to first of all, I'm going to say that side up is going to equal, then I'm going to get rid of minimum because it's always going to be 1. My maximum is a variable. It's whatever sides I've got here. So my maximum is the sides, and the minimum, again, is always 1. So I'll put that there. There might be some ways to shorten this out, but I'll just go with this, see if it compiles. It does compile. So now we have a die class that we should be able to roll. So one of the good things about BlueJ, and the main reason that we're using it, is it allows us to test our code easily. So I've just compiled that. I'm sorry, I've got to compile it. So we can go to our dice and we can create a new die. And I'm calling it die 1, just the default. And then I've got a dice right here. So this is an instance of the die class. This is the die class, and this is a die. I can right-click it, and I can go to Inspect. And if I inspect it, I can see what the fields are set to. So here I can see that I've got the int sides field, which is set to 6. And I've got the int side up, which is set to 1. And that's exactly how I wanted things to be set up in the constructor. So I go ahead and close that. Now let's see if that die is going to change when I roll it. So I've got that side up was 1. I'm going to call void roll, the method. So I just called it. Now I'll inspect again and see if they changed. They didn't change, but there's a 1 in 6 chance that it wouldn't change anyways. So might have to roll some more. So I'll go ahead and roll again. I'll inspect again. That time it changed to 4. Go ahead and roll it again. Inspect it. That time it changed to 2, so I am rolling that 6-sided dice. Inspect it once more. Okay, 4. So that's the introduction on classes.